Hello, everyone. My name is Kurt Roney, and I'll be the instructor for this course. And this video is intended to provide you with an orientation to the course, just give you an overview of what to expect as we work our way through this somewhat advanced and accelerated course in strategic management. So with that, I think rather than get into any other kind of details, I'll just get started with the PowerPoint slides here. That's if I can do it. There we go. Okay, so as I mentioned, this is Business 670, an MBA course, and should be about the last course that you take because it's intended to be a capstone course to give you a chance to use all the skills that you've already developed and acquire some others in strategic planning. So let's see if we can get it's about the methods and the procedures that are used by managers to assess the firm's external environment, and the impact of that environment on the firm's performance potential, as well as methods that are used to assess the firm's capabilities and to accomplish that with distinctive competence, so that your firm sets itself apart from competitors in the same industry. As you might imagine, the course deals with the selection of goals and strategic objectives, and finally, strategy to achieve those goals and objectives, as well as an overview of implementation. I say overview because we won't really talk about implementation very much. The follow-on course, the course after Business 670, is Business 671, which is focused entirely on strategy implementation. So this course is, for better or worse, it's largely focused on the theory and the concepts of strategic management and strategic planning, whereas Business 671 is quite different. It's about methods and procedures that actually take place, the real work of doing strategic planning and implementing it. And then in Business 671, teams of students will actually form something like a strategic plan or a strategic assessment for a publicly traded company, a large company that they will choose at the very outset of the course. And then I will work with you to develop plans or assessments, strategic assessments of those firms that you select. So in this course, Business 670 will be developing the tools that you will use in Business 671. A couple of quick slides to tell you about my background as a strategic planner. Students usually want to know what the background of the instructor is. And I, even when I was in industry, I was an adjunct instructor at the Antioch University McGregor School in Ohio, where I also taught MBA courses. Before I got here, I was at North Carolina Wesleyan College teaching pretty much the same courses as I do here, with an emphasis on strategic management. And then some almost 15 years ago, I came to Mount Olive, where I now teach courses in strategic management, international business, and international strategy. And that's about it. Before I got into academics, I was in industry. So unlike a lot of folks that you meet as professors, I've actually walked the walk, as it were. I was vice president of planning and development at Phillips Industries. I was the first strategic planning director at Holiday Inn. I was on the consulting staff of PepsiCo in New York City when it was still in the city, helping the company to form programs to become the much larger corporation that it is today. I was on the consulting staff of a large international accounting and consulting firm, which is now called KPMG. You've probably heard that term, but when I was there, it was Pete Marwick Mitchell and Company. And then just before I got into academics, I was the managing principal of a firm that did strategic planning with clients all over the world. So I had an opportunity to see how a large number of companies do strategic planning and business planning, as well as acquisitions and divestments. We were very active in corporate development. So that was far too much about myself. I guess you would expect that, but I'm sorry. So the course. Oh yeah, the course. It concentrates on management, what management's tasks are in crafting and implementing comprehensive strategies and plans to achieve sustained competitive advantage. And there's a basic assumption throughout this course, and that is that if managers have sound strategic plans, their firms are most likely to achieve sustained success. And believe it or not, there's actually been some research in that direction. Companies that did thorough strategic planning were compared to those that did not. And later on, those that did high quality strategic planning were compared to others. And as this bullet suggests, strategic planning can most definitely improve the performance potential of your firm. And that's why senior executives and top management of most corporations are very eager to have a proficient strategic planning department and proficient people in those departments. And if you happen to like what you see in this course and Business 671, you might want to think about a career in strategic management for two reasons. One, the work is fascinating. Two, the compensation of strategic planning managers is higher than average. Okay, so this course will sharpen your ability to think strategically if you're not going to be a strategic planning manager, and assess internal competences and match those internal competences to problems and opportunities in the external environment. So again, as I mentioned, you'll develop skills to develop and select goals, strategic objectives and strategies, to see that work from the perspective of top management, such as the chief executive and the senior management, as well as the entire management structure. And that's important, because when you go to work in a company, you're going to be affected by the corporate planning process. Objectives will be set, plans will be formed and communicated to the organization, and you will, in one way or another, be affected by that. So after taking this course, you may be in a better position to understand a little better why those decisions are being made. Anyway, this is a skills course and a big picture course that integrates knowledge that you should have gained from your prior business courses. So more specifically, this course addresses the topics on this slide: the process of strategic management and planning, the assessment of the economy, market, and industry, as well as market segments such as energy and climate, evaluating the firm's competitive capabilities to do that work and to implement strategy, to look at the big picture and decide where the firm ought to fit in the economy and industry in order to identify standards for success that will be most appropriate. Those standards for success, of course, are goals, and goals tend to be kind of large and broad, although they can also be specific. But in order to get to the goals, we often have to identify progress standards along the way, or strategic objectives. What objectives will we have to achieve in order ultimately to achieve those goals? And then forming strategies to achieve the goals and implementing strategy, including keeping the plan current and revising the plan as and when necessary. So if you get through this course, and I'm sure you will, you're going to acquire those essential strategic management courses. You're going to learn how to discover what the requirements in the market and industry and economy are for the firm to accomplish sustainable competitive advantage. We don't want to win the battle just for a day or two, or a week or two, or even a month or two. And instead, what we're trying to accomplish is long-term sustainable competitive advantage by developing those capabilities, making them excellent, and making them fit the external environment that the firm competes in. So we're going to gain skills to assess a firm's distinctive competence and its competitive position, and understand differences in strategic planning for different types of companies. For instance, companies that are in just one line of business, one industry, one product line, must take one approach to strategic planning. But many firms now are more complex than that. They have multiple divisions. They compete in multiple markets and industries, and the approach to strategic planning for them is different than for the single business company. I might add that some single business companies are pretty large. If you think about United States Steel, which is a company that I used to be employed by very, very early in my career, or Union Carbide, or the large chemical companies. There are many companies that are located in just a single industry that are still quite large. So, sort of repeating everything here, your challenge, your objectives for this course: learn the techniques, learn about contingencies, that is how to select the strategy making methods that are appropriate for the environment that your firm is in, to become aware of implementation skills. There are so many that we're actually going to focus that time in Business 671 to appreciate the fact that that external environment that we have to fit our capabilities to is always changing, and so are our capabilities. So strategic planning is dynamic in nature. It's constantly adapting, and then once again to give some thought to the concerns of top management as it looks at these strategic management issues. So there are several lectures in this course. Some are long, some are not. And I apologize ahead of time for the long ones. What has happened in this course over the years is that, as I mentioned a couple minutes ago, things have become more complicated. So the economy certainly is much more complicated today than it was back when I learned strategic planning before I actually became a practicing planning manager. But when I learned strategic planning, it was in the 1970s and 80s. And boy, has it changed. And so much more has occurred. Think about the economy. What has COVID done to the economy? Answer, quite a lot. What has international competition done to our country's economic potential? Quite a lot, not the least of which is due to the ascendance of China and so forth. So the lecture topics will are frankly they're always evolving, and so I've kept this slide sort of general because as time passes, different lecture topics may find their way into this course while others are removed. So there will be an overview of the strategic management and planning processes, a discussion or several discussions in those lectures about how to gather evidence regarding external forces that drive a firm's performance: the economy, markets, industry, climate change, international conflict. There will be a lecture, and of course there are chapter readings on these topics as well, on strategic capabilities. One thing is rather remarkable in my experience teaching strategic management now for 20 years, and that is that strategic management textbooks don't get into the nature of goals or selecting goals. It's quite remarkable. But when you look at your textbook, you won't find a lot of specific detail about goals. And you'll find almost nothing about those external drivers, with the exception of industry analysis. Strategic management textbooks for many years have focused on industry analysis. Because that's the very specific environment that the firm finds itself in. But because those other dimensions of the external environment are needed, I have provided you with this supplemental material. So we'll assess or we'll talk about how to assess strategic capabilities, and of course, review the textbook chapters. The textbook has 12 chapters. We will review in this course 9 of those chapters. And then in Business 671, there will be 3 others that are focused more on implementation. At the end of every chapter, And in the second half of your textbook, there are short little cases that demonstrate principles in the chapters. So at the end of the chapter, or later on in the second half of your textbook, I will ask you to read one of these short little cases and answer some questions about them so that you will have an opportunity to apply the principles of strategic management that we've been talking about. The tests will include quizzes on lectures and chapters, discussion questions on many cases, 2 big tests, one on chapters 1 through 3. Chapter 4 is deferred until Business 671, but the second test is even bigger and has a few more points, but it's on chapters 5 to 10 and fewer lectures. There is no final exam for this course. It's all about, in each part of the course, developing the skills and knowledge sets in each part of the course. So a comprehensive exam it doesn't serve any purpose in my view. So your grade will be calculated based on those items that I just mentioned. The mini cases, the quizzes on chapters and lectures, the 2 tests. The first test is worth 20 points, the second 25, and the outbound exam. You've probably heard about the outbound exam by now, but it's a requirement that UMO and the Tillman School use to assess itself. So although you're not being evaluated in this exam, you will earn up to 5 points. The grading is very easy and it's spelled out in the syllabus, but I think if you get a 70 on this exam, you get all 5 points. Then if you get 60 to 69, you get 4 points and so forth. So it's kind of hard not to get most or all of those 5 points. But the university requires that you take this, and it's assigned at the very end of the course. Okay, so again, I'll just sort of real quick. Part 1 of the course is the overview, the course introduction. Lecture 1 is an introduction to strategic management and planning. We've got chapter 1 on strategic leadership, some quizzes. Part 2 is about gathering evidence, and that's where some of those lectures will be. And chapter 2 on the external environment, particularly industry analysis, and chapter 3 assessing internal capabilities. And so by this time, you ought to be ready for a test which will cover chapters 1 to 3, the lectures, and that's it. And they aren't lectures 1 and 2. There probably will be 3 or 4 lectures. Okay. Again, these PowerPoints were made earlier, and already things have changed. So part 3 of the course is about strategic decision-making. There's a lecture on that topic particularly, where I offer you the most advanced methods of strategic decision-making. And incidentally, you may have noticed this animal, Waffles, who has been wandering around behind me. Can you see him there? I don't know if you can, but his name is Waffles, and he is my strategic planning coach. He's the one that I go out and take long walks with, and we have in-depth discussion of strategic management principles. And he always seems to point me in the right direction. So he's a very valuable consultant for me. And you will probably see him in the office here as I give these lectures. Okay, so chapter 5, business level strategy. Chapter 6, industry contingencies, different approaches to strategy. Chapter 7 on technology, strategy for technology-based businesses. Chapter 8, international strategy. Chapter 9, putting it all together, corporate integration, and corporate diversification, expanding the scope of businesses, the scope of markets, the scope of industries, perhaps, that the corporation is in. So it's, of course, the test is online because this course is online. But again, I might add that we may have other lectures besides just one that are included in that second test and that third in the third part of this course. Most of the lectures, though, will be in part 2. Well, that's it. Let me see if I can get out of this. So there you have it. That's an overview of the course that you're about to take. I hope that you find it helpful and that it will, more importantly, whether you enjoy it or not, I hope that it will give you a stronger basis for your career in management. So with that, let me see if I can get out of this system now. So I'll be, I'll hope to see you soon as we reconvene during the course. Goodbye.